statements on Mackey and Judd. Actually, before we get to more statements, I think we should take a moment here and reflect on how hilarious it is that the Green Bay Packers were devastated yet again. If the Vikings can't have success, then I guess the next best thing is making fun of the Packers. This is Packer Ventline, courtesy of our friends on the Green and Gold postgame show, The Fan in Milwaukee.
And then lost.
Go, Pack, go!
Get rid of them. This crap of, I'll decide in a little while what I'm going to do. Screw you. Move the flip on from this diva. I've had it. I'm a Packer fan. I'm 55 years old. I've seen 2 Super Bowls, 3 actually, with the loss with Favre. I try and get it out of my mind. But the bottom line is this is crud. This guy can't perform in a big game. And he's holding out to see if Brady retires so he can go to Tampa because there isn't another team in the league that can compete that's going to take him on.
I love it. It's so good.
I mean, he has major epic failures in big postseason games. And he's always been kind of a weird leader, team chemistry guy. You know, he's not I don't think he's the beloved figure that like Joe Burrow is early on here with his teammates and that Tom Brady is, right? I feel like he's got some allies in the locker room, but it just kind of feels like,
that call's so awesome.
Something's a little off. I'd still take him as Vikings quarterback in 2023.
In a second. Yeah, probably.
Unless they found their quarterback of the future, which I'd rather have. But let's hear from some more depressed Packers fans.
Go, Pack, go!
You know what he's going to do? He's going to force the Packers' hand. He's not going to. He's going to say, "Well, if you want to trade me, but I'm not going to demand a trade." You see what I mean? This is the kind of guy he is. He's a very selfish ball player. When DeGora dropped that ball, and that was a big play when he dropped that ball, you knew he wasn't going to get the ball again. And this is what he does. He's a selfish, self-absorbed guy, and he's a baby. He really is.
He's a baby.
Go, Pack, go!
You know what we should all hope for in 15 to 20 years for us to be all mad because it never ends well, right? For us to be like, quarterback X has to go. He only won 2 Super Bowls and he's a selfish, self-centered bleepity bleep. They got to move on. Because the Favre thing, same way, right? But think about it. Think about the success. And I know that the championships aren't what they expected, but nonetheless, wouldn't it be glorious to be chasing out not because he's Ponder, not because he has flamed out in 2 or 3 years or gotten hurt, but we're chasing the guy out because we're sick and tired of his winning act.
But I actually agree with some of these Packer fans.
I do too.
That, like 30 years and you only have 2 Super Bowls. And now, by the way, you're about to here. We can go back and forth here. Let's blend in statements here. The Packers, and then I know Judd has a take here, so I'll quickly throw it to Judd here. But the Packers, if this was it for Rodgers, are about to get slapped in the face with quarterback reality.
Yep.
Like the Bears, like the Vikings, like the Browns. I mean, unless they get lucky again and Jordan Love magically figures it out in the offseason or they draft somebody. But it's going to be amazing to watch that organization and fan base wrestle with mediocre quarterback play for the first time in 2 generations.
It'll be great. But my statement is this. Because there's going to be a temptation here, and Vikings fans, I caution you and I warn you because it will be fatal if it occurs here. Do not lose sight of the goal. The goal is not to be like, the Packers are going to be bad. It's going to be great. We can beat the Packers. We can win the division. I referenced the 1970s into the 80s Vikings when the Packers were horse bleep. They were terrible. And the Vikings back then went to Super Bowls, won the division all the time. Guess what they didn't win? A Super Bowl. Because we have a tendency to say, well, if we beat the Packers, the season feels like a great success. Packers stunk. That's so much fun. And yes, that's fun. But the goal here, as I age out towards death, the goal here is not, I repeat, to win as many division titles. It's not to beat the Packers. It's to do those things, and it leads to a Super Bowl. So I saw it. It started on Saturday night already. I saw it. The whole thing about, oh, this is great. Packers are going to be bad now, and look, the Vikings, they got to get as good as they possibly can right now. That's the temptation, and it's very dangerous for the owners, for the coaches, for the players, and for the fans. Because if that's your bar, like if that's your goal, if your ceiling is, well, we beat the Packers and the Packers stink and we're good, that's awesome. You're never going to get to the promised land of where you want to go. So don't overlook the goal. It's a Super Bowl.
Well, I think some people hear that and say, what are you talking about? Of course, the Vikings have to surpass the Packers if they want to achieve their ultimate goal of winning a Super Bowl. What you're saying is don't be obsessed with doing it. If Rodgers is gone, don't be obsessed with just like getting as good as you can for 1 year, even though you're salary cap strapped. I think long term, you should be obsessed with being better than the Packers, but it doesn't all have to happen in 2022. And if Rodgers leaving is a door opening for you to say, oh, well, now Kirk Cousins is going to be the best quarterback in the division. Let's sign him to a 3-year extension,
right,
and lock it down. I don't think like that probably wins you the NFC North next year, but it keeps the glass ceiling on your franchise when it comes to winning a Super Bowl. So I agree with you.
And if you get good, so let's say Rodgers is gone and you get good and you win basically consistently division titles until 2032, okay? But then every year, what happens? You go in and play the Niners and they beat you. Or the Rams, same thing. You're not achieving your goal. Your goal is not to be, this division right now, at least for the upcoming season, the NFC North, make no mistake, could be terrible. And the Vikings could win it. They could win it next year. What does that get you, though? And if you continually win it, and it's like we continue to dominate the Packers and the division, but when we get to the divisional round game or the conference championship, we're getting blasted. Ain't this fun? No, it's not. No, it's not. This is a whole plan to get as high on the National Football League pecking order as you possibly can, not to beat one team or to dominate one division.
You know, what my guess is we'll probably do a deeper dive into this week, but Aaron Rodgers, I feel like, is the first domino here for quarterbacks this offseason, right? Like he already has publicly stated,
yeah,
I'm gonna make a decision sometime in the next month. I mean, hell, Tom Brady's undecided. I think both those guys come back, but let's stay on Rodgers for a second. If he decides to play but demands a trade, how does that impact? Like Denver's probably in on him, right? How does it impact a potential Kirk Cousins trade market? I mean, there's so many things that are going to
Pittsburgh's in,
be tentacles off of Aaron Rodgers' decision.
Carolina's in. I'm guessing that the Packers would try and trade him out of the conference entirely.
Washington might be in on some of these.
But there would
too.
be, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? If you don't get Aaron, you know what I got for you? I got a pretty nice car that you're gonna want to drive. You take a test drive in this baby, the old number 8. It's gonna be real good for you. But why don't you guys want it? Oh, we're going in a different direction.
Our roster is aging.
Can I show you these Kirk Cousins stats? Look at these stats I got right. Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be like 3 or 4 teams that we're right on the doorstep of contention. We just need a little bit more stability at quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, couldn't you? If the Niners would have lost that game, as it looked like they were going to the entire night, I saw a lot of people during that game saying, "Boys, Jimmy G garbage." Imagine if they just had a stable quarterback. Of course, like the divisional round on the road, you're playing against great, front fours and front sevens. Cousins has wilted in that exact situation as well in that game against him. People are comparing some of these divisional round wins to but Cousins did it against the Saints. Yeah, that was a good win, but the divisional round is where you get the best teams, the Niners from 2 years ago, right? That's the round where anyone can kind of fake their way through a wild card win. It's really hard to fake your way through a divisional round road win.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Kirk Cousins, make no mistake, I think physically is a better quarterback than Garoppolo is. Garoppolo, though, has intangibles that Kirk can't dream of. I do think guys gravitate towards him. I do think he leads. I don't think he's very good, But if you could take Kirk's body and Jimmy G's head and combine it, you'd have a pretty damn good quarterback.
Good-looking quarterback, yeah. You'd be looking pretty good.
Oh, yeah, Jimmy G.
My girlfriend was the only thing she was happy with was that she gets to look at Jimmy G's behind the next week. That was literally her, like, I get to look at Jimmy G again for the next 7 days. Like, oh, okay, that's nice.
He's
Good
got
for you.
that beautiful face.
He's got a great jawline. Yeah, he's just a good-looking man. I get it. We all want to be Jimmy G to a degree, right?
No, not really.
Is that your statement?
That's not my statement yet. That's not my statement yet.
We all wanna be careful.
My statement is do not settle for just the division title. Look at the Dallas Cowboys, right, in the NFC East. The Dallas Cowboys are far and away the best team in the NFC East, and they have the best quarterback in Dak Prescott. But the Cowboys are also a little bit limited here. Like, their salary cap is about to be hindered by Dak's contract, about to be eating up a ton of money starting next season. And the Cowboys were good last year. Don't get me wrong. They won 12 games. Their offense was on fire. But then they melt down the wild card round. And after watching what has happened so far in the playoffs, like, the Cowboys are not even close to being one of the best teams in the NFC. Can they be better than 12-5 and putting up 530 points next season? Like, can you even top that? Can you still be a better team next season with Dak Prescott's contract starting to hinder you from filling out the rest of your roster? Like, the Cowboys made a decision that, hey, we're going to be the best team in the NFC East, and that's true because the NFC East sucks. It's horrible. It's not a really good division. And the Vikings can look at this if Aaron Rodgers left and say, well, we'll be the best team. Justin Fields is far away. The Lions are an absolute mess. Who knows what Green Bay is going to do? We'll just win the NFC North and go from there. I wouldn't just put the ceiling at NFC North and a wild card home game and go from there. Like, the Rams are on a different level. Obviously, the 49ers have built out a incredible roster. You have to have your sights set on not just a division title, but competing for a Super Bowl. And I wouldn't just put the next season motto as, well, let's win the NFC North because Rodgers is gone.
Yeah, I love some of this stuff here. So to your point, this is the mindset that I want the Vikings to have. I'm reading this from a Joe Burrow post-game press conference after the wild card round victory. This is before they won this weekend. And he had a message for the Cincinnati fans after the first playoff win in 30 years. Quote, I tried to downplay it because this is how it's going to be. It's a great win for us, but this is the standard and the bare minimum every year going forward. Mm-hmm. So you can definitely hang division title banners if you want to, but, like, I'm not really interested in those anymore. I think the divisional round of the playoffs, I love the way Joe Burrow put it. Like, that is your bare minimum now going forward, and that's what you should strive and look to achieve.
Deep playoff runs consistently. Mm-hmm. Do it.
Okay, before we get back to statements, let's hear from some more depressed Packer fans. Packer Ventline, courtesy of our friends on The Fan in Milwaukee.
Look, this is a petulant child we're dealing with, and Gary's absolutely right. When he threw that ball deep into double coverage down there to Adams, he was just frustrated. Whatever happened to throwing guys open? Whatever happened to throwing guys open? You see his mannerisms and everything else. I'm going to tell you, I'm 65 years old. I've seen half of Bart Starr's career. I've seen all the Packers play, and I'm going to tell you this. He is the only Packer in my life that I dislike. The only one.
Dude, it's the conflict.
They forget they turned on Favre so hard.
Yeah, they did.
They completely forget that now. He played for the Vikings. They turned on him so hard. I love this.
Did they turn on Favre while he was still a Packer, though?
They started to get they got sick of his wavering, but my point is they also they've been so spoiled. That's the one good thing. It is going to be great to see them get quarterback play that is bad. It's going to be so much fun to watch.
Let's hear some more.
Go, Pack, go!
That's on Matt LaFleur. He needs to start answering some calls. And guess what? This is out of 3 seasons, he's had 2 seasons of fatal flaws that could kill him. The first time was a run defense. It sucked all year. We went to San Francisco. They ran right through you. The third season, we told you in week 4 that your special team was awful. It's going to cost you a Super Bowl. And guess what? We said, I hope it doesn't screw up. But there's no hoping. You're the head coach. Figure it out.
Yep.
Hoping gets you fired.
Dude, their special teams was a disaster.
10 men.
I know.
For the game-winning field goal attempt by Robbie Gould, they had 10 men on the field.
You get a punt blocked in return for that's literally the only way San Francisco was going to score a touchdown is if you blocked a punt. and they returned it. If they have to scoop it and score on the block punt, because even if they would have gotten it at like the 4-yard line, I don't think they would have scored a touchdown.
Garoppolo would have thrown a pick. Oh my God!
All right, one more.
Go, Pack, go! Go, Pack, go!
From the small amount that I've heard, Packer fans are on them. But nationally, that's not the narrative, and it drives me crazy. The narrative nationally is that the Packers organization isn't doing enough, and I can't stand it because Aaron Rodgers he doesn't get it done when it matters, and I just don't understand how every other big athlete, LeBron or Giannis, or whenever someone else fails, the big guys get the blame, and I don't understand why Aaron Rodgers isn't the same way nationally.
Honestly, that was a fairly level-headed, coherent point.
He's not drunk. It's no fun.
Like drafting a quarterback in the first round when you were a 13-win NFC Championship team was definitely an organizational failure. But for the most part, like they've had a pretty stacked roster, and get rid of him. They don't score in the first half of a lot of these playoff games.
Get rid of him. Give me Jordan Love.
It's like people like Vikings fans saying, "Be careful what you wish for." Moving off Cousins, it's like, what do you mean? Be careful. They aren't making the playoffs. Packers fans,
let's move on.
I know Rodgers has some weird flaws and stuff, but definitely be careful what you wish for on that front. All right, statements continued here. Did you notice the 4 remaining head coaches are all offensive guys? Mm-hmm. Now, I think that's probably an oversimplification because obviously if the Buffalo Bills would have maybe squib kicked or something and burned a couple seconds, maybe the Chiefs don't win, and all of a sudden now McDermott has a defensive background. But you got Andy Reid, one of the great offensive head coaches in NFL history. Kyle Shanahan is back. It would be interesting at some point to see Kyle Shanahan with like a real top 5 quarterback. And then you got Zach Taylor in Cincinnati and Sean McVay in Los Angeles. So what do you guys think of that? 4 offensive-centric head coaches in the Final Four here.
I think it's I think that certainly a defensive guy could be involved there. So it would not change my personal standpoint that Raheem Morris is very attractive to me as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, this is the way it's trending. And aside from San Fran, you've got 3 teams that are pretty well damn tied to QBs who are in some ways extensions of those coaches, right? So you've got Reed, Mahomes, his guy. You've got McVay, Stafford. And I'm not saying that Stafford is great. I was impressed. But he's definitely the guy that McVay thought could take them to that next step. And so, yeah, to me, it's just this league is so now trended in that direction that this whole thing of, let's go try and stop teams. Look, defense remains important. It will always be important. But if that's your starting point, I think you're doing it wrong now.
Yeah. I mean, Raheem Morris is so intriguing as a leader, as a guy who's been a head coach before. He was an offensive, pass game coordinator for the Falcons on the other side of the ball. Do I think he's an offensive mastermind like an Andy Reid? No. So I want a leader first and foremost. But I just don't know, like if they hire Dan Quinn or Todd Bowles, I feel like,
what I'm thinking.
Can you make the playoffs? Of course. Can you compete at the top level and develop? Let's say you draft a quarterback. Maybe you can develop him to be pretty good. Can you maximize that quarterback if Dan Quinn is your head coach? I would say he'd have to hire 3 amazing quarterbacks coach, offensive coordinator. You have to nail those hires.
I think your coach now needs, or I would probably be biased against a coach that I consider not to have a PhD in quarterback. So like if you come in and say, I am great defensively and I can lead this team, and I'm going to bring in people to work with the QB, and I'm going to talk to him a lot, but I mean, I would say, let's sit down and talk about this because I want you to have a PhD in particular in this position.
Then who on the list? So here's the list.
Yep.
Raheem Morris, Todd Bowles.
Out on Bowles.
Nathaniel Hackett, Dan Quinn, D'Amico Ryans, who just interviewed last night, Kellen Moore, Jonathan Gannon, Kevin O'Connell. The only 3 that would have a chance to be PhD in quarterback would be Kellen Moore.
Yep.
And we've talked
O'Connell
about our
might.
reservations there. O'Connell.
We don't know.
And Nathaniel Hackett. I
Yep.
mean, those would be the 3 of the 8 that you would think could have a chance to have
And
a PhD
Morris
in
intrigues
quarterback.
me because I don't know there, but as far as Bowles and Quinn, I'm personally out.
Yeah.
I'm
What
just
about,
not gonna
okay, does D'Amico Ryans and the way that the Niners went on the road, he's the defensive coordinator for the 49ers.
Yeah.
You know, he's young, he's in his 30s, former player, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like I don't know.
I just don't know there. I don't know.
I had no
And he's-
idea
and
he was I had no idea he was a DC up until like a primetime game midway through this year. It's like D'Amico Ryans, like the player who was playing for the Texans like 4 years ago, is now a defensive coordinator. I don't know. I think he's young enough, and even though he's clearly a very good coordinator, he's helped the 49ers basically be now on a doorstep of going to another Super Bowl. I think he's young enough that he could possibly be embraced and surround himself with the right OCs. I do think. I think he could do it.
On the
Just a
GM
complete
front,
guess.
on the GM front, because we did have news over the weekend. Here's a statement: if you really like Ryan Poles, don't let the Bears steal him from you.
Yeah.
Like over the weekend, I saw these. So the Bears are bringing Ryan Poles in as a finalist. He was a Giants finalist last week. He was a Panthers finalist a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they're bringing him in on Tuesday, tomorrow, for a finalist interview. And the Vikings have one tentatively scheduled for Wednesday with him. I mean, why can't that meeting with him happen today? Or tomorrow before, maybe he's flying into Chicago and then
It's
flying
on
to
our
Minnesota, but
schedule, damn it. We don't change our schedule. We just all work here.
But if you really like Ryan Poles, why would you let the Bears steal him from you? Because I did see one of the national guys reported it might depend on what kind of an offer the Bears make. Why does that matter? If you believe that he's the guy to run your front office, then outbid the Bears.
Right. But if your polls, don't you wait to go through the in-person process with both teams? Because the Bears are good. I mean, there's going to be some real red flags from both of these teams. So I don't think that I would go talk to the Bears and they're like, you're the guy. Don't go talk to the Vikings unless the offer was so huge. So I think if Poles is as smart as we probably think he is, it makes a lot more sense to go through both.
Yeah.
The Bears scare me.
I mean,
The
if money,
McCaskey scare me.
if
The
money
Bears
is equal,
frighten
right?
me.
If the contract is
I'd come
equal,
here. I'm coming here.
I don't know why you would choose the Bears over you want to work for McCaskey?
Yeah, and that's just that team's got so many red flags right now. I think
Yeah, I don't know. I guess
I'd rather work for the Wilfs. So that's me.
Yeah, the only thing would be if Ryan Poles believes it's so hard to find a quarterback, and I love Justin Fields, and I feel like we could build around Justin Fields, and the Vikings are going into this huge unknown.
Yeah.
You don't know who the quarterback's going to be.
Hey, statement in the form of a question too. Where the hell is Eric? Eric Bieniemy, I think, talked to the Broncos. He's not a finalist. I don't think he has been in contact or at least been officially interviewed by any other teams, including right now the Vikings. If Poles comes here, I would take it that there's a relationship between those two that goes back since Bieniemy's the OC for Reed with the Chiefs. My point being is Eric Bieniemy has seen a ton of upfront real success here. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in the post game last night, Reed gave him credit as well for some of the play calls. So where is he? This is very weird.
This will all get. Ryan Poles is almost certainly going to become a general manager, either of the Bears or the Vikings, right? So if he doesn't reach out to Bieniemy for a head coaching interview, then I think it says he's just not highly regarded to be a head coach. That he's a coordinator. So I would expect whether Poles takes the Bears job or the Vikings job, that Bieniemy would interview for the head coaching job with either one of those franchises, and if not, probably tells you something.
Intriguing.
Maybe he's just, I don't know, maybe he's just a coordinator.
I mean, that's possible.
The fact that he's not getting more interviews after having a bunch of interviews, I think that tells you that he's not very impressive in these interviews. Mike Zimmer had the same problem, and you could say, well, see, all the concerns that teams had about Zimmer wound up being true at the end of the day, that he just kind of a fear-based culture, my way or the highway. But Zimmer did finish 16 games above 500 and went to an NFC Championship game. He certainly wasn't a failure.
I would just be picking the brain, though, of a guy who has worked that closely with Reed and the Chiefs.
Well, they are, right? They're picking the brain of Ryan Poles.
I'd be picking all the brains I possibly could, though. So anyway, it's a little bit odd. I'm not saying that Eric should be a shoo-in for the job. I am saying, if you're going to go through the list that the Vikings have of prospective candidates, you would have thought that they would have talked to him at some point. And they still might. Who knows?
Here's a statement. Federated Insurance is here to help you business owners out there with risk management. They're here to help you maximize the success of your business. You can find a full list of industries Federated works with at federatedinsurance.com. But when it comes to, they're really, like we've talked about, they're like an offensive line, a reliable one for your business, helping maximize your success and helping prevent you from risks. Check them out at federatedinsurance.com. And remember, at Federated, it's our business to protect yours. Also, one of our big events every year is the golf show, the 2022 Choice Bank Minnesota Golf Show, which is returning to the Minneapolis Convention Center on Friday, February 18th through Sunday, February 20th. I know Judd and I are going to go down there we're trying to figure out the schedule here, but we will do sort of a bonus Mackey and Judd episode on that Friday, the 18th. So more details to come there. If you want to come and shout obscenities at us in person, you're welcome to. Tickets are on sale now for just $12, compliments of TwinCitiesGolf.com. And each ticket purchase includes 10 free greens fee passes and 3 bonus passes if you purchase online. Find all the show details at MinnesotaGolfShow.com, presented by Choice Bank. So, always a fun event to break up the monotonous winter if you are into golf. Any final statements from you guys before we get to Purple Daily?
I never want to catch a football from Josh Allen because he literally looks like he throws fastballs, 4-seamers, just absolutely breaking all fingers. I want next gen stats on how hard that dude throws because it's watching him throw that football. I never want to catch a football from him.
It's like Favre did. Favre had the same thing. Bent fingers back with passes. Oh. That's not pleasant. Breaks fingers.
No. Yeah.
Nope.
He's
I agree.
So good. Also, another thing too, we can talk more about this on Purple Daily because I think it's one of my main observations. Like people, especially, I feel like a lot of Vikings fans obsess over how can we get conditions to be perfect? How can we get 5 great offensive linemen and this and you want to make your team as good as possible. But in a salary cap league, it's really hard. You're going to have some position groups that are lacking. Mm-hmm. And I'm watching a lot of those plays in that game yesterday, and even like some of the plays that Joe Burrow was making. It's rarely drop back, boom, boom, 3 seconds, clean pocket. Like it's avoid a rusher here, scramble out of the pocket there, keep a play alive, find a receiver, improvising, right? Like get to the line of scrimmage, key play to keep your season alive, tight end and quarterback have some telepathic connection that I'm going to change the play here. It's like it's not perfect. It's hard. It's the
that's
best
football.
Teams in the world.
It's failure.
You're facing freaking Aaron Donald.
Yes. Brady again overcame. He lost, but I mean that game was not good for them. They didn't play well. They had a great chance. How would you like this? Imagine a world where after the game gets done, you don't have to make excuses. Joe Burrow got sacked 9 times, and he won. And you know what that means? Fans, you don't have to sit down and be like, well, oh man, Joe Burrow never had a chance. Look at all the sacks. It's unfair to Joe. If they only had a better line. He got sacked 9 times, and he won the football game, which means you don't have to make excuses. Imagine a glorious world, where you don't have to do that, where there's no covering for Cousins. Oh my God, he had no. What are you talking about? It can't be Kirk's fault.
And that's the thing. Fact. Like the peak version of Kirk Cousins is a theory based on, well, if this can be perfect, if this can be perfect, if this over here, I got news. It's never going to be perfect. He's never going to have the best coach with the best offensive line and the best. But if you can just get him a top 15, offensive line and a top 5 defense and a top coach over here, it's like, that's not reality.
Right.
Okay, then he doesn't get to make 20% of the salary cap. because I don't know how we're going to get all those other things if he's making that much money. I'm sorry.
And he is not a Super Bowl winning quarterback. Like, that's a statement. That's just true. It's not like you cannot torture this whole thing into, well, if this is right and this is right and this is right, because to your point, Phil, it's never going to be. The entire sport is built on things going wrong.
And if
there's
no
no perfect game.
Yeah, and if you can't operate comfortably when things around you are, when your defense gave up 30 points over here and your offensive line is missing a left tackle, like think about Matt Stafford too. His freaking Hall of Fame caliber left tackle Andrew Whitworth was out.
Yes,
and he's facing that defensive line. Here's one last statement for the road here for you.
I love
If
it.
one more person puts Matthew Stafford and Kirk Cousins in the same tier or the same sentence, you can delete your account. You should take a step back and stop watching football. I was too. I was guilty of it too.
I was doing
they
it
are
a little
on different
bit.
levels.
Yeah. Well, but again, what to you guys is the most important difference between those two? Because I don't think it's talent. I think it's mental.
There is a leadership aspect, and yes, sometimes Stafford can get squirrely and throw 3 picks, but people hold that against him. Like, see, Cousins would never throw 3 picks like that. It's like, well, actually, the Falcons game last year, but you need a little bit more of that risk-taking gamble to you. And there's a little Favre to Matthew Stafford where he threw a couple passes in that second half where it's like, oh, dude, rein it in a little bit.
Yep.
But that attitude also is a big play attitude, right? That's why they're scoring more points than the Vikings. That's why they're going deeper in the playoffs than the Vikings.
No question.
Stafford has a tendency to shipwreck games where Cousins is just literally waiting for the Coast Guard to come save him. Like Stafford's gonna go full speed. If that iceberg's in my way, I might kill us all. But when the iceberg hits us, Cousins is like, it's okay. Coast Guard's coming.
It's not my fault.
I'm just the captain. The spotter didn't tell me the iceberg was there. Like, I didn't know it was coming.
Imagine not having to make excuses, though. Think about that glorious day.
What a day of football. Oh, my gosh. My brethren. We just witnessed the greatest weekend of football of all time.
Does anybody that you guys have seen play this sport laugh at adversity like Brady does? Like, he literally looks at it. I've decided I like watching him, not because of his successes, but how he handles shipwrecking.
Yeah.
Like, he literally steers the damn ship. Like, he saves it almost every time.
Dude, he also got flagged. Some of these referees, man. It's like, dude,
It's bad.
He got popped in the face and was bleeding.
Hockley, man. Sean Hockley. Take a hike.
You just call Sean Hockley a jerk?
Yeah, he doesn't get it. Because Brady came out on his Sirius show last week and explicitly said, I get away with unsportsmanlike conduct because I'm rough on officials. And that officious jerk Hockley heard that, and I guarantee threw the flag because of that jerk.
Yep.
Get off my lawn.
I think I tune in to watch these refs put on a ref show, and I was thrilled with what I saw yesterday.
Little gun show for the refs.
His guns aren't quite his dad's guns, but he's got 25 years to work on it. All right, we got to go here. Purple Daily. We got more takes, more We're going to talk about the future of the Vikings. Everything we've sort of learned here the last couple weeks, culminating with this weekend of football.
Love it.
The future of the Vikings on Purple Daily. Mackey and Judd, check us out on the Score North YouTube channel if you aren't. And if you are, please click subscribe and the like button to spread the word about this daily Minnesota sports entertainment and therapy. We'll see you guys tomorrow.